I'm going to ask you a little bit about what you might be involved in through the year. But how does that make you feel with Bristol? You know, almost like winning that award because it's quite prestigious. If you look at some of the other cities that have held the same title, Bristol's in very good company there. How does it make you feel, and how do you think the people of Bristol should embrace this?
I have been involved in that green capital movement for a very, very, very long time. I guess it's the very early days when a group of business people and voluntary sector people in that sort of green space were saying, this is something we really should be aspiring to, and how do we organize ourselves, and what's important, and all sorts of things. And I guess my role in that came through work that I did for Business in the Community. It's one of Prince Charles' charities, and for 17 years my little tiny business sold knowledge and management into business in the community. And so I'm really grateful for those 17 years, because I did all sorts of great fun things, really, really fun things. And so environment was also part of their agenda. And I, being interested in that, led a lot of the environmental work, which is why I got involved in the early days. So for a previous bid, we had a book. Is it here on the bookshelf? Could be. Yeah, Inspiring Change. Here we go. This was published, a long time ago. When was this published? This was published in 2011 as part of the city's environmental green stuff.
Yeah.
And I wrote I think I wrote something in it. What did I write in it? I wrote the afterword.
Okay.
Which sort of pulls it all together, talking about why I thought it was important, this green capital movement. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
I again had the enormous pleasure, because again through my work in Business in the Community, I was working with the Prince of Wales to pull together the first network of businesses in 2007 that were on that environmental theme.
Okay. Yeah.
And we had a conference down at the Eden Project that was part of a national conference. So it was taking place in 11 different locations at the same time, and we were using whizzy, stuff to connect us all together. And we had something like 200 people that wanted to attend. And it was, as I said, it was being held at the Eden Project. We had no opportunity to change the timings or anything. So I went to Virgin Trains and I said, I need a train. Can you give me a train, please? So we can get people from Gloucester down to Cornwall and back. They gave me a train. They gave me a train. It was really fantastic. So that was that wonderful network of businesses. And then as High Sheriff, again, the Prince was having an initiative called START, to encourage people to start recycling, start thinking about green issues, start all of this thing. So I was lucky enough that I was able to encourage him and the Duchess to come to Bristol. And so I pulled together 16 different organizations that had something to do with sustainability. And we had a wonderful visit. And I think I've got a book about that too.
Oh, wow. So, because we're going to go on to this further, how involved you are in the community, especially here in Bristol. We're mentioning, as we're having a little chat a minute ago, that you wear very many hats. Do you feel that early life experience has influenced you to want to be more active in the community?
Tremendously so.
And also having your father as that influence, someone who's involved in the civil rights campaign, and being very active and strong about it has made a difference to you.
Oh, certainly. the Selma thing brings out how difficult it was for black people to be able to vote in those days, and my father was very active in helping people get registered to vote, making sure that people got to the polls to cast their vote. Anybody that is concerned right now, listening to this or reading about this, make sure you vote in the elections that are coming up in May of this year, because voting is a cherished opportunity. We must take advantage of it. We must cast our votes. We must be politically active and aware. So yeah, that was very much a part of my upbringing. And it's very interesting, you know, in the Selma movie, I'm sure you see that bridge and people walking across that bridge and, you know, the dogs, the everything, you know. I remember all of that, the little girls that were blown up in Sunday school.
Yeah.
Because, again, I come from a family, traditionally in the South, we are very religious people.
Yeah.
So I come from that sort of background. So, yes, it has had a marked influence on the way that I live my life. I was very fortunate.
It's just a big issue in the States.
I think it just has improved a lot. I think it has improved a lot. I think there is further to go. There's always further to go. And it's that tension, it's that balance between how do you value your heritage and your culture and what that richness it brings to life, as well as on the other side being part of an integrated society. And I think you have to be able to do both. I think there are certain traditional things that I do that I value and I will continue to do, and I think they should be continued. I think that it's also very important, as I was saying about the voting, for us to participate fully and actively, for different cultures to know each other and to understand what our beliefs are, what our values are, the things that we hold in common, because that commonality is far greater, in my view, than the things that divide us. And most of the things that divide us, if the values are right, aren't really divisions at all.
Yeah.
I think keep us in common, and there are things that divide us.
And I think that's a brilliant way to look at it. If we focus on the things that we have in common,
yeah.
Like you're saying, you know, the differences then
Yes.
then become minuscule, and you think, well, that doesn't
That's right.
actually matter too much.
And you can negotiate some things.
Yeah.
You know, you can negotiate. But you, in my view, you need to start from a position of saying, guess what? We have a common reason to do things together, good things together. I'm naive, it's okay.
I'm sure you're not. Still on the same subject, so we will get to the actual questions
it's okay.
that I prepared.
It's okay, don't you worry. There's lots to talk about.
What do you feel the difference is then? Let's take Bristol for example. This is where we are in terms of sort of racism and inequality here in the UK, and you having been living in Bristol as sort of segregation compared to the States. Do you think it's more seen more in the States and, you know, more of an issue, or is it that people just seem, because it's been on the news, people seem to think that it's more of an issue there than maybe it is over here?
I think it's different. And I think the differences are these. America, in its early years, in the 1700s, was a location where there was slavery. And that causes, it leaves a legacy. That's the best way to put it. It leaves a legacy of superiority and inferiority that is based on the way you look. Whereas here, there is a class system that has a superiority and an inferiority that's based on the way you might speak or dress or eat or do things like that. So it is, you can move more easily from a middle class to an upper class, you know, because you can acquire certain attributes. But guess what? In America, when you're black, you're not going to change that. In America, however, you see the Colin Powells, who was he was chief of staff, military man. So
Chief
whatever.
of staff, yeah.
You see Condoleezza Rice, who was Foreign Secretary, or something like that. I don't know what the title was. But you see black people in America having very high positions that you don't see the equivalent of here. So there's something different.
Yeah.
You know, there's a different thing going on. And I guess I'm not a historian, so I don't know really why it is. I can just say that there are differences. In America, you can excel, regardless of your color, your background, your accent, your whatever. If you, generally speaking, apply yourself, educate yourself, you can move through those barriers. My father, for example, was a dirt farmer, came from a dirt farming family. He was one of 13 children, and he and many of his siblings have university educations. So that didn't stop his ability to succeed, in a sense. So it's just different here. You face different barriers here. And in both systems, the worst thing is to feel that you are inferior and give up hope and think that the system cannot be changed, challenged, improved. Because it can be, but you just have to have a particular strength, wherever you are, to be able to get through that.